Greetings, Faith Alive Church family. I have a few verses I want to share with you today on this beautiful Wednesday, and pray that you are doing well. You are enduring through this time of isolation, and that you are feeding your faith and building yourself up with prayer and meditation of the Word. And so I want to read to you a couple things that I think are very important, specifically for this time that we're in. And I want to begin in Luke chapter 18. Verse 1 says, "And he spake a parable unto them to this end, that men ought always to pray and not to faint." You know, that's a very important verse for us. We need to continue a lifestyle of prayer and not grow weary, not grow passive, particularly not allow the spirit of the world to drag us into a bad attitude, which is real easy to do right now. He goes on to say, saying, here's the story that Jesus gave us as to why we need to persevere in our prayer. He said, saying that there was in the city a judge which feared not God, neither regarded man. In other words, the ruler of the city or the ruler of the county or state or whatever program, he was not one that feared God. And so he says, and there was a widow in that city, and she came unto him, saying, avenge me of my adversary. And he would not for a while, but afterward he said within himself, though I fear not God, nor regard man. So here's a leader that had no reverence for the Lord and had no respect for man. He said, yet because this widow troubles me, I will avenge her, lest by her continual coming she weary me. And the Lord said, hear what the unjust judge says. And so here's a case where I see persistence in prayer. You know, Jesus gave us this illustration to teach us to continue in prayer. Don't be weary in prayer. Continue to use your authority. Continue to exercise the name of Jesus. Don't be weary. Don't give up. Don't quit. Because faith will get the job done. And he continues to say this, which is very interesting. He says, and shall not God avenge his own elect, which cry day and night unto him, though he bear long with them? I tell you, he shall avenge them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man comes, when the Son of Man comes, he didn't say if the Son of Man comes. He said when the Son of Man comes. Shall he find faith on the earth? There's no mistake about it, my friends. Whether we see it in our lifetime or whether we don't, whether we, like our ancestors that, maybe were World War II vets or Vietnam veterans and, lived through maybe the Depression. My grandmother lived through the Depression. They tell us stories about what that was like. Maybe we'll live and tell our children and our children's children, what it was like when the country shut down because of a virus and how many people were afraid and or whether the Lord comes for us before that. Maybe the time we're living in is the end times to a level that we don't understand. But here's what I want you to focus on. Focus on when the Son of Man comes, shall he find faith in the earth. And what does that mean for us? It means that we have a responsibility to do. And I shared, I believe, Monday with you a proverb which I taught about a little bit in the 20th verse, or chapter rather, verse 6, where it says, most men will proclaim everyone his own goodness, but a faithful man who can find? And I talked a little bit about what it means to be faithful, and what it means for us to be faithful to the Lord is that we're doing things, His things, the way He wants them done. Not the way we want them done or the way we think we should be done, but the way He wants them done. And so, how does the Lord want us to navigate through this time? He wants us to navigate in faith, not in fear, not in anger, not in frustration, not in whatever other emotion you're experiencing, because we're all experiencing these emotions. But what we need to do is we need to say, all right, Lord, help me stay in faith and teach me what that means. Now, I mentioned this the last time we talked, but I want to elaborate a little bit more on it. We're required to live a life of faith and love. Those are the commandments that the Lord gave us to do. Faith and love. In Proverbs 15, listen to this verse. Proverbs 15, verse 4 says, a wholesome tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness therein is a breach in the spirit. You see, anytime, because we're Christians, because we have the divine nature of God living and dwelling in us, anytime we say something, anytime that we do something that's contrary to the Lord, it's a breach in our spirit. You know, I have debated many things face to face over the years, social media these days. I've made comments to people's Facebook posts and expressing my disapproval, and got into some combativeness, and I never felt good about it. Why? Because it's a breach in my spirit. So, in many cases, I had to go back and just delete the things and, say, Lord, I'm sorry. I allowed myself to be drug into something that made me say something or caused me to say something or do something that caused a breach in my spirit. Because you can't walk out of faith. You can't walk out of love. You can't walk in those arenas and have confidence in your prayers. And that's exactly what John said. Listen to this verse. 1 John chapter 3. Listen to what he says here. He says in verse 20, he says, if our heart condemns us, God is greater than our heart and knows all things. Beloved, if our heart condemns us not, then we have confidence toward God. Let me say it again. If our heart condemns us not, then we have confidence toward God, and whatsoever we ask we receive of Him. You see, our prayer life, our faith is very dependent on our confidence. And you can't speak, you can't, hey, I could say all kind of things I could express my opinion about the decisions some of our leaders are making in our country right now, in our state. I can express my opinions on that. And I can express disapproval on some of it. But I can't do it. I can't let that draw me into it because it causes a breach in my spirit and it hurts my confidence. And if there was ever a time when we need our prayers working for us, it's today. We need to take back with our prayers, with our faith, We need to take back the things the enemy has already stolen from us, trying to destroy our economy, taking us away from public gatherings and meetings. We need to exercise our prayers. And the best way that we can do that, my friends, is to maintain a life of faith and a walk of love. And don't let all this craziness pull you into it. So I encourage you today, on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon, we're one day closer to being together. One day closer to being able to, have some freedoms to hug on each other and love on each other and be who God's people are supposed to be. But until then, let's continue. Maintain your life of faith. Maintain your walk of love, even if other people see completely different than you. You don't have to say anything negative toward them. We don't have to do it. Let's maintain strong confidence so our prayers can be unhindered. Bless you. May the Lord keep you, and we'll talk again soon.